Hi everyone, I'm Patryk. I started pretty young. I built a software agency when I was 17. Then I scaled it to $500,000 in revenue, and by 20 I managed to sell it to one of my clients. That gave me a taste for building things from scratch, and as well gave me some itch to go bigger. Now I'm building MySite.ai, which is a social media copilot for restaurants, salons, and local service providers, which helps them with their social media profile. They just basically get, thanks to us, AI marketing copilot. So it's like a full-time hire in their team, which is totally on AI and lets their social profiles. But let me be real with you. The path here wasn't easy at all. We had pivots, wrong turns, near-death moments, times when it felt like our ship is about to sink. And that's what today's story is going to be about. We're going to solve a murder mystery. The victim was our startup. The crime scene, open sea of the market. And the suspects, you will meet them soon. Like any voyage, it started with excitement. New ship, full sails, champagne smashed. We were ready to conquer the ocean. But here is what no one tells you. Most ships don't sink in the middle of the ocean. They sink right after leaving the port because of the holes in the hull. It didn't take long before we saw the water rushing in. Our startup, our ship, was about to sink. So we asked the question, who killed it? Like detectives, we pinned up the suspects. Each one could be guilty. Let's interrogate them. Our first suspect was no validation. We built for a destination no one cared about. We assumed we knew the right direction, but we didn't talk to the travelers. The ocean didn't need what we built. And if you've ever worked months on a feature nobody cares about, you've met this suspect too. The next one was no analytics. Imagine steering a ship in a fog with no compass, no map, no stars. That was us. We had users signing up, but were they staying? Were they churning? Were they even find the value? And we had no idea about it because we could have basically no way to measure anything. For the third, no monetization. We thought if people love the product, they're going to pay for it. Wrong. We had usage, but $0 in revenue. And a ship with no treasure can't stay at the sea for long because it runs out of supplies pretty quickly. For the fourth, wrong focus. We went into the wrong ports, pitching to people who never had their pain. They clapped, they smiled, they said, nice idea, and never pulled out the wallet. Nothing, but really nothing, believe me, is more dangerous than polite price. It feels so goddamn good, but it kills you when you don't know. But here's the twist. None of these suspects acted alone. The real murderer was us, the captains. Our blind spots, our arrogance, thinking we knew better than the ocean. And that's why the ship started to sink. When we wrote the autopsy report, the evidence was clear. We skipped validation. We skipped measurement. We skipped charging. And we chased the wrong people. And that's how we nearly killed our own startup. But we didn't let it sink. We rebuilt mid-ocean. We talked to real customers. We set up analytics everywhere. And we started to monetize the product from day one. And we ultimately chose the right harbor to dock in. And that's how we went from total chaos to today. $2 million raised, 40,000 passengers on board, and 30% month-on-month growth. The ship now sails strong, but the path here wasn't easy. It's only because we learned and investigate how to solve such problems and such mistakes. And that's what today's presentation is going to be about. So how do you solve your own murder mystery before your ship leaves the port? I'm going to show you 10 tools every founder should keep in their detective kit on the process. I will show you not just plain ideas, but as well how we and others implemented those ideas into life. So the first, you may say the most obvious thing, is to just build a landing page, okay? I know that sounds obvious, okay, but many of us doesn't do it. And add a button like sign up or buy now on the page, and then run ads. I know that targeting in Meta ads, Google ads doesn't work properly, so you should obviously put after the buy now or sign up button some short survey asking whether the people are from a specific industry or whether are the CEO, marketing managers. So basically, if no one will click the ads, it's totally okay. But if they would click, congrats, because you validated demand before spending a penny on developing the product. Our story was that we did pretty same for the restaurants, salons, and other industries. And what came out is that about 80% from those came from the smaller companies, and the last 20 was a bit more specific places. So we just was sure after this that we need to focus on those who wanted to pay, who wanted to sign up, who wanted to buy now. Another example was, for instance, Dropbox, okay? So those guys just put a simple explainer video on the landing page, just with no product, no demo. It was ultimately just a simple video demo, okay? But they got, thanks to this, 1,000 signups first before spending money on the product. The next thing is, I know that it's actually a pretty sad thing, because probably most of you here are introverts, but sometimes the fastest data is face-to-face. So you just have to walk into some industries, some small companies, and just talk with them, pitch them idea. I did it in San Francisco, in Austin, in Warsaw, in New York, in other cities. And what I've done is just I walked into restaurants, I walked into small businesses, and I just pitched the product. Obviously, some laughed, some with me await, but others leaned in and said, nice product, when can I try this? And that single answer is the best validation you can trust. My pro tip here is to write exact words your customer says. So you can either record them and then using 11 Labs transcribe them, or you can, for instance, buy yourself this AI wearable note taker, those necklaces, which are actually amazing. Thanks to them, you can basically have another really great context for building afterwards a landing page which is going to sell. So if your customers are going to mention some pain points, if they mention some values they need or some other problems, that's the best way to then put it on the landing page. And sometimes people ask me, but hey, Patryk, what if I don't have an idea yet? That's totally normal for any of us. So before pitching a product, if you don't have one yet, you should just ask $100 million question to those potential customers. So at first, go to the same businesses. You can just even go door to door and ask them, I have $100 million to solve one of your problems. Which problem would you choose? And this question cuts through the noise. It makes them think. And for instance, one salon owner told us that the only thing which matters are customers. And these single answers showed us what's important for them. And suddenly, our whole roadmap shifted to the lead generation. My framework, which I do really recommend you, is if 5 out of 7, at least 5 out of 7 places mention the same top problem, congrats, because you found your real ocean current, and basically afterwards you can try to dive into this customer profile. But remember on the way that polite rice are deadly. So customers so often says, sounds nice, and you think it's validation. But there is a really great book, The Mom Test. I hope that many of you know this book. It's pretty short, you should check it out. And there is a really great example in this book, which I'm gonna present to you in a moment. So imagine this situation. There is a son and a mom, and son asks her mom, "Mom, would you use this mobile app with recipes for the great dishes, just to cook great food?" And mom would answer, "Son, obviously, I love this idea. I would love to use this app. It's amazing." And you may understand that the son now is biased, okay? So because her mom told him that the idea is great. But imagine a different scenario, okay? So if the son would come to her mom and ask her, "Mom, in what way do you find those all great ideas for those dishes? You cook amazing." And the mom would answer that, "For the last 10 years, I use this cookbook which I got from your aunt." And this single answer kills everything. So it basically showed that the mom's willingness to change is pretty low, because she's not looking for different solutions. And we did exactly the same mistake. My pro tip here is that you should at first ask about behaviors of the customers. So let's say that you know what is the real pain point of the customers. Okay, so from the previous slide, you know that you should use the $100 million framing to find the real pain. And now you can ask deeper about the specific behaviors, okay? So about, for instance, in what way do they solve the problem, your potential customers solve the problem? And if the room goes quiet when you afterwards stop pitching your solution, that's when you should know that the pain wasn't real, okay? So the framework should be like this. At first, you ask $100 million question for a couple of people. Then you ask the same group at the mom test. So you ask about behaviors, ask about the way they was doing it, and afterwards you can pitch your solution. That should be the way of validating if there is demand for the product. But nothing validates like money, and you should know about this, obviously. So when you know what's the idea, when you know the problem, you should put all of this into a landing page and set up a Stripe checkout or EasyCard checkout. And even if you refund those people later, if people pull out their credit card, congrats, because you found your real demand. And our story was that we've added a $10 per month plan and invested about $1,000 into Meta ads. And what we found out is that 5 people paid day one, even if when there was no product. And it basically showed us that this idea is a real business and can then be a scalable one. Other example from the market was from Mr. Buffer. So those guys famously did pretty same examples. So they also created landing page, pricing page, and a checkout page. And if you clicked buy now on the landing page, it just showed a pop-up stating that we are not ready yet, please leave your email. And I would obviously add some short survey as well, but this information, if somebody clicks this button, also gives you an idea if there is a willingness to pay. So you should obviously put as well some Google Tag Manager and other analytics there, but that's actually pretty obvious, okay? So you should track this afterwards. So let's say that you are in a moment that you have ready, you know the pain point, you know the customer profile, and you know what should be, how the solution should look like. And even though you have all of those data, I would strongly recommend you to at first try to be the software before you build the software. What I mean by this is that, for instance, what we've done at first is that we were writing and sending posts manually for restaurants at first. Was it painful? Obviously, it was painful. But it gave us two things. It gave us early adopters, plus a deep insight into the industry. But imagine a different scenario. So imagine that you'd like to create a software for, let's say, accountants, okay? Automation which is gonna categorize invoices, okay? Whatever. And if you know that there is a pain, if you know that the customers need this product, you should still understand in what way they work. Do they categorize in this or other manner? Do they use this or other ERP or other software? So you should at first understand stuff before you're gonna build any MVP, basically anything. There is no sense to do it before. I would recommend even to employ yourself as an intern into accounting company for a couple of weeks even. Because the lesson out of this is if the people value your manual version enough to keep paying, the automated version is only going to scale faster. And I know, analytics isn't sexy, I know this, but it's a survival. So, for instance, we started with totally nothing. It was just a spreadsheet, because even if you go door to door, you need to somehow as well monitor how many of people say no, how many say yes. So just a spreadsheet should be in the idea stage totally enough. Later on, we added post-hoc, we added a few other tools, but the framework for the whole product should be like this. At the idea stage, you can utilize spreadsheet plus Google Analytics plus UTMs, which is totally good enough. At MVP, you can utilize post-hoc or Mixpanel, which can help you track your retention and funnels. And at scale, you can obviously use custom dashboards like built out of Rudderstock, Customer I/O, Metabase, and data warehouse of your choice. So there are then multiple options. And even though you know all of this stuff and you've built a super easy prototype in Figma, before you are gonna build this, you can ask yourself if you can in some way make it look like the product runs on its own, but behind curtain can be you. There are some companies which took this advice too seriously, like for instance Builder.io, which employed thousands of actually Indians in their company. But you can seriously try to implement this approach into your software at first, okay? So customers basically don't care how. They care how you solve the problem. That's the only thing which they care about. So the great examples of this approach is, for instance, Zappos. And this company, before building warehouses and all of this, big company, they've just, the founder just photographed the shoes in the local store and put them online. And afterwards, they was just retailing, ordering each after other. It was actually a drop shipping at the end of the day, but it was a few years ago. But here, it's exactly what Wizard of Oz should be about. So just try to sell your product in a manual version before you're gonna build it. You can somehow mimicate it works even if it doesn't. But also, sometimes the best data and the best validation is silent. So if you'd like to target, for instance, those accountants, try to ask accountant firms if you can co-work from their office for a couple of days. So you're gonna understand them better. If you try to target marketing agencies, just go for a couple of weeks to New York and try to meet with as many marketing agencies, founders or CEOs as you can, so you can have a better idea of how they work. As for instance, last weeks I spent many times in restaurants, so I just spent a lot of time in the restaurants. It's actually a great thing, nothing, but still, it made me understand how they juggle Facebook, how they behave, what software do they use, because this insight is really, really important. So a pro tip out of this is to ask for a shadow for a day, and watch what tools they actually use, how do they behave, not only listen to them, but as well how they seriously behave and how they seriously work. And the last thing, ads can also be a research tool, and they are not only for growth. They should be actually a market research at the end of the day. So before doing anything, just spend $100 per segment and test who clicks, For instance, we tested restaurants, salons, real estate, and what came out is that restaurants are the cheapest for us to get. And the framework which I propose to you is free ads, free markets, $100 per each equals $900 experiment, which means priceless clarity on where demand lives. So, guys, here is your detective file. Fake door, door-to-door, $100 million framing, MAM test, pre-sale, concierge, analytics, Wizard of Oz, shadowing, ads research, 10 tools to check for holes before your ship leaves the port. And yeah, we nearly sunk because we were not doing this. But we cracked the case, okay? And now we know how to build ships that last. The only question which I'm going to leave you today with is, before you leave your port, will you check your own ship for holes? Thank you.
Thank you, Patryk, for a thought-provoking talk. I invite you to rate his talk on an app. And
There are 3 minutes more, so we can take a few questions if we can.
absolutely, yeah. Any questions? Anyone would like to ask Patryk anything? Yeah, there is one. Let me grab a mic for an audience real quick. Yes, please.
Hey, when you listed those 10, whether they are listed like based on your like priority or the life cycle, I would say, like for example, start with this, then do this, or how would you structure them? How would you suggest to implement them one by one?
Can you try the same question without microphone?
Yes. You listed 10 of methods,
Yeah.
whether they were prioritized based on, like, I don't know, try first, then second, and then go to ads, or not.
They were actually pretty random, but you should actually, it actually all depends on what stage you are. So I would actually recommend each of you to just start with $100 million framing, so just ask some of your customers, basically, what problem do they have? And afterwards, try to ask more people deeper with the MAM test. And afterwards, you can build a landing page and try to test out the solution with a landing page. So that's actually a simple path. On the way, you should try to observe as many signals which your customers give you via, for instance, shadowing. So you can even try to co-work from office of your customers. So actually, that's a mix of tools, but you should use all of them constantly. Even if you will scale your startup, you should constantly ask your customer.
Thank you. We have time for one more question. I remember I saw a hand.
Hi. So how does it work to apply these rules like post-mortem? Because as I got it, you've learned those 10 rules along the way in your startup career. How does the startup work now? Is it dead already, or did you manage to revive this? Or
Once more, you ask?
like, how can you apply those rules post-factum after you've built the startup?
You're right. So actually, I had 3 pivots, okay? So I pivoted my company 3 times, and the first 2 times I just forgot about those all tools. I just didn't know about them, okay? So the only, at my stage, solution was just to pivot another time. Was actually pretty funny, but you know, like, you sometimes need to just rework some stuff. If you don't have customers, if your customers churn, as in our case, we had plenty of churning customers, even though the CAC, so the customer acquisition cost, was pretty low, and the LTV was not that bad. But still, like, the retention was not that great as we was thinking about. So the only way was to try again, so just to build the software from scratch. So that's my idea, but sometimes you can try to, you know, like, fix some small things, but not often that's possible. So it all depends on what you build and on what stage you are. So if you'd like, you can talk afterwards.